Can you believe that it is April already? I just realized the other day that we're 4 months into the year and I have not created one Memorydex card. Now, what I decided to do was to use my design team packages for Country Craft Creations, and for each collection that I work with, I will create a Memorydex card. I thought that would be a great way to remember the paper collections. So what I've done is actually transformed a Dollar Tree tray to be my Memorydex card holder. And I've created 2 Memorydex cards. One for the Farm to Table paper collection that I used. And this has a little something there. And I also used the Ireland Forever paper, and so I created a lovely little office scene Memorydex card here. I love how this turned out, a lot of mixed media, and I show you how to create both of these cards as well as the tray in this tutorial. I love what this says. My hobbies include MDCs. Well, yes, they do, and I hope that you will join me in doing the same thing this year, using your paper collections that you work with and creating a Memorydex card to memorialize that paper collection. It's just kind of fun. So let's get started. So last year I created my own Memorydex box, and this is it. I love how it turned out, and I filled it with my Memorydex cards that I created, and even some that I traded with others. And so I want to create a new box for this year, and I thought I would do that using one of these little trays from the Dollar Tree. So let's get started on that process. Now I'm going to set up my desk to be protected with this little mat that I got off of Amazon. Here's my tray. I'm going to be using some gloves because I just did my nails and I don't want to have to redo them. Plus, I have another boo-boo on my finger, and so I'll be using that. I'm going to have a sponge applicator. I'll be using this Coordinations sander, and I've decided to use this Country White semi-gloss paint that I had and actually painted an entire chest with it. So I'm going to use that for this particular project as well. I have a stir stick and a little paper towel. So that's all the components that I'll be using. First, I'm going to sand down the edges to make sure they're not too rough, and then I will be painting everything. So this is kind of a coarse piece of sandpaper. I'm just going to go over some of the edges very lightly. Oh yeah, that's much better. Even just doing that little bit helps. Now you'll notice I'm going on the inside of the wood as well as the outside, just to get a nice soft piece. Now I know I won't be doing much on the bottom side, but I still would prefer that it's kind of sanded, or if I pick it up, I don't want to get a splinter or anything like that. Now the next thing I advise is taking a towel and just brushing through that, getting off any excess. And we should be ready to go. Now you can certainly use any type of paint that you want. I have the ordinary deco paint or the apple barrel paint that you can get from Walmart. I am just choosing to use this because I love the color. And actually, now that I think about it, I got this paint from Walmart. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint the inside, even though I think I might put a decorative piece of paper down. That way it's just all the same color. Now if you want to add gesso first and then paint, you can certainly do that as well. But since this is a high quality paint, I think one coat should do it. So I'm getting all the nooks and crannies. All right, so this is all painted. Looking good. Yeah, we like that color. I don't know if I want to do the bottom inside or not. What I'm going to do now is to let this dry, and I'll be back. Here's our little box. It's all dried and painted. I did go ahead and paint the bottom. I just love this color. So now we are ready to work on the inside, and what I've done, I'm going to use Marigold by Create Paper and use that for my inside piece on the bottom. Now you can go ahead and leave this as is and use it, but I don't know, I envisioned kind of a pink paper down here at the bottom, so I'm using this piece from the Marigold collection. And so I've measured this out. Now when I measured it out, I did use the measurements on the front, you know, just going like this. So what I came up with was 4 3/4 by 6 7/8. Now what I've noticed is that the box isn't actually squared all the way around. So just be aware of that. So when we put our paper down, one side fits really well, and then the other side kind of bubbles up a little bit. So it's not actually squared off. You know, I would work with your paper a little bit, figure out which way it fits best. Now I'm going to lay this in here. Where's my glue? And I'm going to put a little glue down there. I'm not sure we're going to need it, but let's go ahead. So I'm working it from one side that's fitting really snugly, fits perfect that way. I'm working across, because over here there's going to be just a little bit that's kind of extra. I'll show you that here in a second. So if you see what I mean, there's just the slightest bit that is over on that side, because like I said, it's not square. Now you can leave it like that, or you could take your knife blade and kind of just cut down, and then just pull that right up. And then there is the inside of our little Memorydex box. I like that. The next thing you need to do is select some very strong straws or some wooden dowels. And I picked these Woodcraft dowels up at the Dollar Tree. And this is the Crafter's Square brand. These are really great, and they are easy to cut. So I have already cut out 2 pieces. Now, when you measure it, a good way to do it is to go to the underside of our little box here and measure it that way. And they come out to be 6 7/8. Now, I have them cut to where it's kind of snug so that I probably won't need glue to adhere these in there. But you're going to need 2, and I've already painted them as well. Now, to figure out where we actually put our little sticks, you can use a Memorydex card that you already created, or you can use a blank one. Now, this is an actual Heidi Swap Memorydex card, and what I've noticed is that this goes up a little bit higher than the Memorydex template that I'm using. So if you see here, it goes up just slightly higher, which is fine. I don't think it really matters, but most of the ones I use are this. So if we use this, we're going to put this into our box here. You can eyeball it, you can measure it, but you're going to center this template or your card in between the 2 sides of the box. We're going to take a pencil, and I'm just going to, lightly outline the top and maybe down around the sides. It's not very pretty, but you can see where that is. So we're going to put our dowel right in the center there. Now, some people take foam tape and adhere it underneath where you're going to put your dowel. I was thinking about that, and I thought we might try that just as a stopping point. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side, center it the best we can, make our marks. Yep, that looks about right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm taking some foam tape. This is the Dollar Tree foam tape. I'm just folding it over just a little bit. And I'm going to put this where our marks are, kind of like a stopper. See how I have that one? So there's our mark. Right at the bottom, I'm going to put this because we don't want our dowels to go all the way down and be flat on the box. We want them to be raised a little bit. And when we put those little foam pieces, that allows it to be lifted up. Okay, so we have one there. Shall we do it on the other side? And then that way, they're all the same. Okay, now we're going to take one of our dowels, put it down on one side on top of the foam, and then I'm kind of going to push this part of the box outward and then push my stick down to where we have our marks. I think that's as far as I'm going to be able to get it, so let's move this one up. Okay, so there's that one. If you see, I couldn't get it all the way down on the foam. It's just right above it. So I can actually remove those foam pieces. But again, I'm just using those as guides. So let's try our second dowel. I'm going to put that on top and squeeze that down into place. Now that one actually worked better. I was able to get it closer to the foam. So I think what I need to do is raise this one up to be more like the other one. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see if it fits. We might have to do some, you know, modifying. Okay, I think this one is too far away. Okay, so I'm just modified those a little bit. Let's do a test. Put in our Memorydex card. Now this is one I made, and it moves really good. So let's try the Heidi swap card. Okay, so that moves. I wonder if we make any changes here. Okay, there we go. Let's check this one again. And that works as well. So what I suggest is, you know, use your template to make a mark. Use the foam guides to get you started on putting the dowels in. And then go ahead and put the dowels in the way I showed you. You're going to kind of push a little bit out on that to get it down in there. And then get them set. Do a little test. If it doesn't work, where you can move your Memorydex card easily, then try it again. You know, it's not an exact science. What you would do is, if it doesn't seem to be moving, maybe you have them too close together. If it's dragging on the bottom, then you don't have them up high enough. So you're just going to have to give it a try and recalculate it if it doesn't work. So that one's working really well. Now I'm not moving these again to glue them. They're going to be, you know, there unless something happens, it falls over or something. But I don't want to mess with them and get them out of alignment. You can maybe stick one of those glue dots. You could stick a glue dot on the end of the dowel before you put it down there, or maybe add a little bit of art glitter glue. But really, I think these are going to hold. I don't know that you're going to need it. So that is the Memorydex box. Now you can, at this point, decorate it to your heart's delight. So now I'm going to show you a couple Memorydex cards that I created specifically for this project. So let's move on to that.